Well, good morning again, brothers and sisters at Grace Bible Chapel. This is the last day of the week. A good Friday to you all. We are going to finish up our story in Daniel chapter 4 about King Nebuchadnezzar. Again, the story that's written in his own hand, about his own humiliation. We talked yesterday about the dream that he had about the great tree, which was him, and how it was cut down and bound to the ground, and how this was a prediction of what would happen, or prophecy of what would happen to Nebuchadnezzar if he didn't change his ways. And Daniel encourages him to change his ways, but he doesn't. And we read how he stands out on his balcony and declares the wonder of all the glory that he proclaimed, that he accomplished, all the great things that he did, his kingdom, and it was for his glory. And the words aren't even out of his mouth. And we read yesterday how all the things that had been predicted and interpreted by Daniel with regards to his dream came true. His sanity was taken from him. There was a voice from heaven that proclaimed this, and he was like a beast in the field. He lived like a cow. His hair grew long like eagle's feathers, and his nails like claws, and he thought he was a beast of the field. And this happened for 7 years, or 7 periods of time, and everything was stripped away from him. And so we come this morning to the end of that, and we take a look at how Nebuchadnezzar responds to this humbling by God. And again, remembering who Nebuchadnezzar is, the type of person that he is, remember his incredible temper that he had when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego defied him. And you think of how powerful a man he was, how proud a man he was, how capable a man he was. And here he's been spending his days in the field thinking he was a cow or an ox for the last 7 years. And his sanity is restored to him. So that's what we're going to look at this morning, Daniel chapter 4. And we're going to start in at verse 34, and it says this: At the end of the days, I, Nebuchadnezzar, lifted my eyes to heaven, and my reason returned to me. And I blessed the Most High, and praised and honored him who lives forever. For his dominion is an everlasting dominion, and his kingdom endures from generation to generation. All the inhabitants of the earth are accounted as nothing, and he does according to his will among the hosts of heaven and among the inhabitants of the earth, and none can stay his hand or say to him, What have you done? And at the same time my reason returned to me, and for the glory of my kingdom my majesty and splendor returned to me. And my counselors and my lords sought me, and I was established in my kingdom, and still more greatness was added to me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are right, and his ways are just, and those who walk in pride he is able to humble. Nebuchadnezzar praises God. Now he extols his virtues. He is amazed at his power and his control and his kingdom that is an everlasting kingdom, and that he is able to humble even a proud King Nebuchadnezzar. There's a couple of things that we can learn from this story. The first is that there's purpose in God's discipline in our lives. We see the purpose in God's discipline for Nebuchadnezzar. There was something broken in Nebuchadnezzar. His pride was overwhelming. It was the thing that prevented him from having real fellowship with the living God. And God broke that pride. He humbled Nebuchadnezzar, and he fixed what was broken in him through his discipline. Now, obviously Nebuchadnezzar had a choice at the end of this. He could have cursed God. He could have been mad at God for it. There's so many things he could have done, but he doesn't. He praises God. He accepts the discipline. He learns from it, and he becomes a better person. And not just a better person, he comes into faith with God. You read that as he writes this in his own words, and he even writes a portion of the Holy Scriptures. And so God's discipline in our own lives. And we can take a look and we can apply these. We can see these happening in our own lives. We need to understand that it has a purpose. That purpose is to fix something that's broken in us. It's to bring us back into a closer fellowship with God in whatever it may be. And so God's discipline has a purpose. Another thing that we can learn from this story is that hard times and difficulties and trials, they bring us closer to God if we let them. This great trial that Nebuchadnezzar brought on himself because of his pride, and God used this to discipline him, it drew him closer to God. And the same can be true for us. So I just want to be brief this morning. I think those are two good points that we can learn from this story. I'm always amazed at this story just because it's Nebuchadnezzar's own hand that he writes this in, and it's amazing when you think of who he is as a person in history, that he would come to faith in the God, the Most High God, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. Hope this is an encouragement to you. God bless, and have a good day.